Picture Britain in the 1800s. Smoke-belching factories, noisy mills, and coal mines demanded workers show up on time for long, grueling shifts. Missing work could mean getting fired on the spot, but alarm clocks? They were expensive, unreliable, and often broke down. Most working-class families couldn't afford them. That's where knocker-uppers stepped in. These human alarm clocks were hired to wake people at exact times, sometimes as early as 2 or 3 a.m. Clients paid a few pennies a week, like a cheap subscription service for punctuality. In bustling cities like Manchester, London, and industrial towns in northern England, knocker-uppers became a common sight. They walked dark, cobbled streets with lanterns, calling out or tapping windows until sleepy heads appeared. It was tough work. Knocker-uppers often started their day in the middle of the night, braving rain, snow, and freezing cold. But it gave many, especially women and elderly folks, a steady income and independence. 1. Knocker-upper proudly said she made her independency by knocking up. This job wasn't glamorous, but it was essential. Without them, the entire industrial machine might have ground to a halt. How did they actually wake people without waking the whole neighborhood? Knocker-uppers got creative. Early on, they used short, heavy sticks or truncheons to bang on doors. For houses with upper-floor bedrooms, they carried long bamboo poles or fishing rods with a knob or hook at the end. They'd reach up and tap gently but persistently on the window. The rule? Never leave until the client waved or shouted back that they were up. No half measures here. The most legendary tool? The pea-shooter. In East London, knocker-uppers like Mary Smith loaded dried peas into a long rubber tube and fired them at windows with sniper-like precision.
Ping!
A perfect hit on the glass, loud enough to wake you, quiet enough not to annoy neighbors. Her daughter Molly Moore followed the family business and became one of London's last knocker-uppers. In mining towns like Ferry Hill in County Durham, workers wrote their shift times on slate boards outside their houses. The knocker-upper would check the knocky-up board and do their rounds accordingly. Some used rattles, soft hammers, or even shouted names. It was low-tech genius born from necessity. Imagine hearing those taps in the dead of night, part creepy, part comforting. Knocker-uppers came from all walks of life, but many were women who turned hardship into hustle. Take Mrs. Waters from northern England. In the 1800s, after her husband became disabled, she built a client list of nearly 100 houses. She woke up at 2:30 a.m. every day for 35 years, earning enough to support her family and even educate her son. "I made my independency by knocking up," she told a reporter. Then there's Granny Cousins in Poole, Dorset. Born in 1841, she woke brewery workers until 1918. Or Mrs. Bowers in Sacristan, who patrolled with her dog Jack and a rubber mallet during World War I. These weren't just jobs, they were lifelines for families. In London's East End, Mary Smith became a local celebrity. Photos from 1931 show her in a long skirt, confidently aiming her pea-shooter. She charged 6 pence a week and never missed a client. Families passed the trade down, mothers to daughters, building loyal routes like modern delivery drivers. Some knocker-uppers even had rivalries, fighting over prime territories in busy streets. Their clients included factory workers, dockers who followed title schedules, doctors, and market traders. One wrong wake-up could mean disaster, so trust was everything. This job wasn't easy. Knocker-uppers faced dark streets, bad weather, and the constant risk of oversleeping themselves. How did they wake up? Many developed an internal clock after years of practice. Some relied on their own family or a cheap alarm. Others just went to bed super early. There were funny mishaps too. Sleepy workers sometimes ignored the knocks or threw things back. In one famous tale, a knocker-upper kept tapping until a grumpy client finally appeared. But the dedication was real. They refused to leave until they saw movement. The profession even crossed paths with history. On the night Jack the Ripper's first victim was found in 1888, a policeman was too busy knocking up workers to investigate right away. Charles Dickens mentioned knocker-uppers in his writings, calling it a novel branch of the manufacturing industry. 4. Workers, it brought peace of mind. No more fearing the sack because of a faulty clock. For knocker-uppers, it meant dignity and earnings in tough times, especially empowering for women by the 1940s and 1950s. Cheap, reliable alarm clocks and electricity changed everything. Factories modernized and the need for human alarm clocks faded. The profession lingered in some pockets until the early 1970s, with Molly Moore possibly the last in London. Today, the knocker-upper feels like a quirky relic. Another time, it reminds us how creative humans get when technology lags behind progress. No apps, no smartwatches, just determination, a long stick, and a promise to get you to work on time. Next time your alarm buzzes at 6 a.m., think of those shadowy figures in the fog, tapping away so the world could keep spinning. The knocker-upper, proof that the weirdest jobs often make the biggest difference. While Britain had the most famous knocker-uppers, the profession wasn't limited to one island. As the Industrial Revolution spread, so did the need for human alarm clocks. In Ireland, especially Belfast and Dublin shipyards, knocker-uppers woke dock workers who followed the tides. In Scotland's coal mines and steel towns, they trudged through freezing Highland mornings. The job even crossed the Atlantic. In 19th century America, some factory towns in Pennsylvania and New England had their own knockers or callboys, though they never became as widespread as in the UK, Australia, and parts of Canada saw similar roles during their industrial booms. One Australian knocker-upper in the 1920s used a long pole with a feather on the end to tickle sleeping workers through open windows, a gentler but equally effective method. The core idea remained the same. When machines ran 24 hours and alarms were luxuries, humans became the backup system. Some knocker-uppers became local legends. Mary Smith of East London, with her legendary pea-shooter, was photographed in 1931 looking like a Victorian sniper. She could hit a window from across the street with perfect accuracy. Locals called her the human alarm clock. Another star was James the Knocker McNally from Manchester. In the early 1900s, he claimed to wake over 200 people every morning using only his voice and a special rhythm of knocks. People said his knock pattern was so famous that workers would wake up just hearing his footsteps approaching. There are hilarious disaster stories too. One knocker-upper in 1890s, Liverpool accidentally woke the wrong street. Half the neighborhood showed up at the factory gates at 4 a.m., only to be sent home angry. Another tale tells of a sleepy worker who poured a bucket of water on his knocker-upper. The knocker just dried off and kept tapping until the man finally got dressed. Dedication like that was rare and expensive. One of the most empowering parts of this weird job, it was one of the few nighttime professions open to women in the Victorian and Edwardian eras. Thousands of widows, single mothers, and elderly women became knocker-uppers. They earned their own money, kept their independence, and supported entire families. Mrs. Waters, whom we mentioned earlier, supported her disabled husband and put her son through school for 35 years. During World War I and II, when men went to fight, women took over even more routes. In factory towns, female knocker-uppers became vital to keeping war production running. They walked dangerous blacked-out streets during air raids, still making sure workers reached their shifts. Many said the job gave them strength and respect they never got elsewhere. In a male-dominated world, these women literally kept the lights on by waking the people who kept the factories lit. By the 1950s, the end was near. Cheap wind-up alarm clocks flooded the market. Electricity reached almost every home. Wristwatches became common. Factories started using sirens and shift buzzers. Yet some knocker-uppers stubbornly continued. In small mining villages, the last ones worked into the 1960s and early 1970s. Molly Moore, daughter of the famous Mary Smith, is believed to be one of London's final professional knocker-uppers, retiring around 1973. She proudly carried on her mother's pea-shooter tradition until the very end. The decline wasn't just about technology, it was about changing times. People wanted privacy. They didn't like strangers tapping on their windows at 3 a.m. anymore. Some areas even passed rules against the practice because of noise complaints. The human alarm clock, once essential, became old-fashioned almost overnight. So why should we care about a job that disappeared decades ago? Because the knocker-upper teaches us something powerful about human ingenuity. Before apps, smart homes, and wearable tech, people solved big problems with simple tools and pure determination. That spirit still lives in night shift nurses, delivery drivers, security guards, and early morning cleaners who keep our modern world running while we sleep. Next time your phone alarm wakes you up gently with music, remember the shadowy figures with long poles and pea-shooters standing in the rain. They didn't have snooze buttons, they had responsibility. The weirdest job in history shows us how far we've come and how much we owe to the quiet heroes who made sure the Industrial Revolution didn't sleep in. In our fast-paced world of notifications and reminders, the knocker-upper reminds us of a simpler time when One person's knock could change another person's entire day and sometimes their entire life.